Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is John Wesley.
Hey, Josh Bissell here.
Hey, this is Jamie McDonald.
What's up? I'm Laverdier.
What's up, y'all? This is Seth Schleter, and you are tuned in to Kingdom Builder.
Hey everyone, welcome to Kingdom Builder. I am your host, Jay Heilman. I'm excited to be joined today by the co-creator of the iconic VeggieTales series and the creator of the newest TV series for kids streaming exclusively on Minno called the Dead Sea Squirrels. And I am pleased to welcome Mike Nawrocki to Kingdom Builder. Mike, how are you doing today, man?
Jay, I am great. Thank you for having me back on. Good to see you again.
Yeah, I'm like I said, we're talking pre-meeting here, and I was telling you that we've had you on the show here before in audio form, but this is the first time we've had you here on video, so we're excited to have you on live and in color, man.
Yeah, in color, underneath my Larry posters and my Dead Sea Squirrels poster and all that.
I see that. Well, last time we spoke, I believe we were talking about the VeggieTales series that were premiering on Netflix. I think it was back in 2020. And at the tail end of that conversation, you teased a then brand new book series called The Dead Sea Squirrels, which has since spawned a 12-book collection. And now it's a brand new TV show on Minno. And the first question actually comes from my daughter, Kara. Kara, what did you want to ask Mike?
Hi Mike, I'm Kara. What inspired you to create Dead Sea Squirrels?
Well, Kara, that is a great question. And I wanted to create a show that I could tell more New Testament stories with, more stories about Jesus. One of the problems or issues that we had with VeggieTales is, and it wasn't really, a problem per se, but we didn't want to ever depict Jesus as a vegetable. We were irreverent in many ways with VeggieTales, but we didn't want to cross that line. And so that limited the number of New Testament stories that we could tell. And so I wanted a chance to tell more New Testament stories, more gospel stories. And so I thought if I could maybe have two characters that somehow got frozen in time, that came into, got preserved until the modern day, that could then help kids in the modern day telling, stories from the Bible to help them with their problems, and that would be great. And so that was the inspiration for creating Dead Sea Squirrels.
Awesome. Great question, Kara. Now, Mike, the streamer that Dead Sea Squirrels is on is Minno. And like I mentioned before, I got a chance to talk to Minno founder Eric Goss about a year and a half ago when they launched the network. And this is also not only home to Dead Sea Squirrels, but to your VeggieTales series. A lot of the VeggieTales that you created in the past are on here. How did you come to partner with Minno on this one?
Well, it was a really, I feel like God really had his hand on this project the whole time, from getting the book series with Tyndale to then being able to raise money for the animated series. And we actually, if you're familiar with the House of David series that's going on right now on Amazon, we did a deal with Wonder and John Irwin with Squirrels a number of years ago, and they did their deal with Amazon. They weren't quite ready to launch a kids show yet because they were super busy with House of David, and so they did a deal with Minno to sublicense us out through Minno, and so we started working with Minno, and they have just been fantastic. The folks over there are wonderful. They really love the Lord. They've got a really strong team with a lot of great industry experience from all over kids TV, and so we've been really pleased and just are so excited, and to be able to have Dead Sea Squirrels on with VeggieTales and other great kids content. I think it's great because it just gives parents, Christian parents, and all parents a really great resource for their kids for great content and really a safe resource too. They don't have to worry about their kids running across stuff that they're not going to approve of.
Yeah, and the one thing I really like about Minno is that not only you have the VeggieTales series on there, the new Dead Sea Squirrel series, but excuse me, a lot of older series that you would have to go hunt down on DVD like Bible Man and stuff like that. And I think it's really cool how they've really brought all this stuff onto one platform, because have been streamers that are like dedicated to kids, but not so much biblical things
Yeah.
for kids. So I really like the fact that they have been able to get all of this past material as well as new stuff on here for kids to watch, because it's like Mike, it's, you probably know, it's really hard to find good entertainment for your kids that doesn't have, you know, adult content, that it's normally over the kids' heads, but
Right.
the parents getting like, wow, I can't believe they snuck that in on a kids show. So that's what I really
Yeah.
like about this. And my wife and I had actually sat down with our daughters, Karen and Addison, and we both love this show in addition to the girls. And the one thing I enjoyed about it, Mike, is that you have so many cool references that us as parents get. And I thought that that was cool. You throw a lot of jokes in there about past stuff. I noticed a very similar looking cucumber and tomato in one scene, which was really cool. I'm like, oh, whoa, there's a reference to VeggieTales. Awesome.
Right,
But
right. Yeah.
one thing I like about this show is, like VeggieTales, this one uses stories from the Bible as told through the eyes of Merle and Pearl
Yeah.
to teach kids important biblical truths. How did you approach this concept with the new series with the Dead Sea Squirrels?
Well, so I wanted to, rather than, kind of going back for every episode, full time to Bible times, I wanted I wanted the episodes to take place mostly in the modern day. And so Merle and Pearl are two squirrels from Galilee who decided in the first century to take a trip down the Jordan River to visit the Dead Sea because Merle heard you can't sink. So he they spend a great day on the beach. They get all saltied up, but of course it's super hot. It's not hospitable to squirrels that far, below sea level. And so they take shelter in a cave to escape the sun, but they get lost in the cave. They dehydrate, and they're all salinated, so they preserve for 2,000 years until they're found by a 10-year-old boy who is on a dig with his dad, who's an archaeologist. And Michael thinks they're super cool vacation souvenirs, so he sticks them in his backpack, brings them home with him to Tennessee, puts them up on his windowsill so they don't stink up his room. And then that night it rains, and they, rehydrate and desalinate. And so the basic concept is, Michael and his fifth grade friends go through problems. As fifth graders in the modern world, Merle and Pearl are able to speak into those problems with biblical truth and help them to solve those problems. And so, in the book, there's a chapter called Squirrel's Eye View, where, we go back to Bible times, to the Sermon on the Mount, or a letter from Paul to the Thessalonians, or, whatever that lesson is, and kind of spell that out. And Michael's able to apply that. In the animated show, that all happens musically. So we go back and we hear a song, and that's been super fun to do because music obviously was always a big part of VeggieTales, and I wanted to make that the same way with Dead Sea Squirrels. And so we'll go back, and Jesus is singing at the sermon, part of the Sermon on the Mount, to talk about do unto others what you want done to you. And that's been fantastic, and we've got to work with just some amazing talent. Matthew West has joined us as the singing Jesus and role, and he's just fantastic. And we've got other stars that are gospel music talent that has just knocked it out of the park with the songs.
Yeah, and that's one aspect of this new show that I really liked. I'm a guitarist, I'm a musician myself, and music has always been a huge part of my life. So I really enjoy when music is incorporated into a show. And like you said, you have a lot of people in the show. Matthew West is the singing Jesus,
Yeah.
but your partner with the show is legendary musician Steve Taylor. And
Yes.
I haven't actually heard anything from Steve in years. I mean, he used to produce stuff, did his own music and everything, but this is the
Yep.
first time I've seen him do something in years. And I noticed that he actually had provided the theme song for which it was hilarious watching this show because my daughters would sing along with that. And right when you get to the part where they're like, not dead yet, they would yell that as loud as they could, see which one could yell it louder. So I think that was the part of the song they got down pat. But,
Awesome.
Working with these artists and stuff, working with Steve Taylor on the theme song, you also have like Mac Powell do a song in here. You have Mercy Me's Bart Millard joining in on a song. Now, I noticed that you actually wrote the lyrics to these songs. Am I correct on that? Did you write the
Well,
lyrics?
yes, both Steve Taylor and I. So Steve, along with being obviously the theme song is the singing voice of the Apostle Paul. So
Yeah.
every time you hear Paul, that's Steve. And then also he's the producer on the show. So Steve and I have worked hand in hand this whole time, and that's been a dream of mine because I was such a big Steve Taylor fan growing up, and so to be able to write songs and produce a show with Steve has just been fantastic. And so he's just such a wonderful lyricist and a great filmmaker. In fact, he and I worked together at Lipscomb University as well. So it's just been a dream working with him.
Yeah. And well, how did you get the artists involved in this? I know a lot of these guys, like Matthew West lives in Nashville. How did you guys get involved with the artists and like getting in on these songs for the show?
Yeah, and that was that was such a matter of personal relationships. Just having, you mentioned, Matthew's in Nashville, and he and I were neighbors at one point and got to be friends and have worked on a couple things together. He came over and worked on a silly song with us at one point, and so I just called him up and said, "Hey, Matthew, are you interested in this?" And he said, "For sure." So he hopped on board, and it's just the other relationships that we've had with these artists over the years with Mac Powell, Ellie Holcomb. And Ashley Cleveland actually sings the voice of, so if you're an old time, kind of gospel music fan, you'll recognize her name as well. So, and then Katie Nicole as well, who's another kind of rising artist in doing great out there. She's Mary Magdalene. So it's just been so wonderful to be able to work in Bart as well. Bart's a good friend of Steve's. So it's really been just amazing to work with these people and just to have those relationships and to have them, be so excited to jump on the show has been fantastic.
Yeah, and Mike, you have a lot of great voice actors on this one, and you do the voice, the voice of Merlin here, and the kid, but you also have a lot of other voice actors joining you on this. And one of my favorites, and I actually like his voice sounded a little familiar when I first heard it,
Yeah.
but it sounded a little higher pitched than what I was normally hearing. But Duncan Phillips, got a chance to spend a lot of time with him, Michael Tate, and the guys from Newsboys over the last 20 years, and that was one of my children's favorite characters was the Blue Lizard Dave, which was voiced by Duncan Phillips. What was it like? Now when you guys recorded the dialogue for this, were you and Duncan like across from each other? Were you able to like kind of feed off each other in those scenes that you shared on the show?
Yeah, so Duncan and I are really good friends too, and that was fun because he and I for years were next door neighbors. We lived in the same neighborhood. We live about a mile and a half apart now, but he just came over to my home studio and we recorded his lines there. So I would read against him as Merle and help kind of direct him in his delivery and all that. But he is just so fearless as an actor. I could say, try this, and he would just try it. He's just not self-conscious about anything, in the booth. So he would just go for it. And he just did such a great job as Dave. And of course, that natural Australian accent, really gave a lot of nice color to Dave as well. So I was super thrilled, and especially Duncan's not a trained actor, but I think his fearlessness and just his personality and everything about him just did such a great job in that role. So it was a lot of fun, and then guys like Jason Marsden who do the voice of Michael, and we've got Jenny Littleton, who's a local Nashville actress. She does the voice for Pearl. Just amazing. The voice of Ruben and Dr. Simon. Or James Arnold Taylor is just a legend in the voiceover industry. So he's doing that. Plus, we've cast a number of acting students at Lipscomb University in roles. So it's just been a great mix.
Yeah, that's cool. And Duncan, like I said, we've got a chance to spend a lot of time with him, and we have a running joke with him because he likes to joke around, which is awesome. And I remember one time we went and met him at a show, and I brought him like a 5T size T-shirt. I said, "Duncan, I got you a new shirt," and him and Michael laughed for like 5 minutes straight. Duncan's known. I asked Duncan, I'm like, "Dude, do you have a shirt that actually fits you?"
I know he's really jacked, and so he's got all these tight fitting
Got those
shirts.
tight
It's so
shirts that,
funny.
yeah.
Yeah,
So that's like
exactly.
that's a running joke with him. Well, the other question my daughters were asking, and I'm kind of curious too, because we really enjoyed the 13 episode run of this first season of Dead Sea Squirrels, but
Yeah.
a lot of kids may be wondering, will there be a season 2 of Dead Sea Squirrels, and when should we expect to see something like that?
Yes, so we are started on that now, as a matter of fact. So the first season was kind of driven from my books, the 12 book series, Dead Sea Squirrels, which then translated into 13 episodes. The books are out there; they're doing great. We've gotten so much great feedback on the books. Tyndale is the publisher on those books, and so I've done a new deal with Tyndale for 12 new books. So far, I've written the first 2, so those are all through copy editing. They're in illustration now, and they'll be releasing soon. So that'll be my big job for the summer, is just to continue writing books, over the coming months. And then we're starting pre-production on the animated series. And so, so we're hard at work and hope to have a season 2 out as soon as possible.
Yeah, that's cool. We're looking forward to that. Well, Mike, jumping over to VeggieTales, you are the co-creator along with Phil Vischer for the VeggieTales series, and this series is now iconic. I mean, you guys started this back in the 1990s and pre Pixar. I remember the conversation I had with you back in 2009 that you guys were developing this computer uh, animation technology even before Pixar put out their first stuff, which was really cool. But you know, all of my kids, all 6 of my kids have enjoyed VeggieTales over the past 20 plus years. And after watching many of the episodes, my daughter Addison had a question for you regarding VeggieTales.
Hi, Mike. I'm Addison. What inspired you to make VeggieTales?
Oh, Addison, that is such a great question. I wanted to tell stories that could remind kids and let them know that God made them special and He loves them very much. It was very important to me and Phil Vischer. We created the show back in the early 1990s together. We felt there was a really big opportunity to tell stories that really fun and entertaining stories that could help parents pass along biblical values to their kids. We wanted to make a show that was really funny, that had really fun characters, and had a lot of great music. And so when we made our first show, Where's God When I'm Scared? That was our hope, to be able to do that. And we were so excited to be able to make our first show. We had no idea that we hoped that we could make another one, but we just didn't know if that would be possible. But that first show found a lot of great fans, and people started asking for more VeggieTales. So we were just excited to be able to continue making shows, and we did that for many years. So it's just been a pleasure, and I love hearing now as kids get older, coming back to me and just letting me know how much VeggieTales has meant to them in their childhoods, and how much the characters have meant. And so it's just really gratifying, and I just really feel that God had His hand on that property for so many years.
That's great. And a lot of kids may be wondering, VeggieTales did have a short run of new episodes on Netflix years back. Is VeggieTales done? Is this something that you guys, are looking at maybe doing something or special or two in the future with that? Because I know that Dead Sea Squirrels is going to be keeping you busy and everything, and
Yes.
people are probably curious, is there a future with VeggieTales?
Well, I hope so. So, if you know anything about the history of VeggieTales, Phil and I lost control of the company back in the early 2000s. And so we were bought by a company out of New York who then sold it to DreamWorks. And then DreamWorks Animation was acquired by Universal. And so the property is now kind of under Universal. And I mean, I love VeggieTales, and any opportunity that I have to be involved, I would love that. And so, I remain open to that, any project that, I can be involved with. And I know Phil feels the same way. If we feel like it's something that, we can be involved in creatively and love it and are excited about working on it. So that's kind of where we are. And it's a little difficult to not have creative control over it again. But, I don't think that takes anything away of, what the property has meant to kids over the years. And, again, I'd love to be involved in any way I can in the future.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm looking forward to that too. I love sitting down watching the show with my kids as well. Well, Mike, the closing question, obviously, your body of work speaks for itself. VeggieTales was such a successful show, is something amazing that you and Phil created, and now you have Dead Sea Squirrels. But jumping into the future when you're retired from animation, from doing this kind of thing, looking back on your legacy, and everybody wants to have a legacy. They want to leave something behind, like something important for fans, for family, for friends. So when you're looking back on Mike Nawrocki and your career over the years, what do you want people to remember you for the most when they think of your legacy?
Wow, Jay, that's such a great question. I went forward at a youth convention or seminar when I was a junior in high school to dedicate my vocation to ministry. At the time, in my 17-year-old brain, I didn't really know what that would look like. I had a dad who was an engineer, my mom was a nurse. So when I headed off to college, my intention was to be a medical missionary, because I thought missions were really important, and I wanted to tell people about God through the work that I did and help them develop a relationship with Jesus. Um, Along the way, a passion that I had for acting and writing and music, along with just telling stories, was kind of God let me use that in the end to be able to meet Phil Vischer. We met on a puppet team, traveling around writing and doing puppets together. That led to the creation of VeggieTales. And so I want to be remembered as somebody who just was able to, as I mentioned, remind kids that God made them special and He loves them very much, and that somebody who used story to further advance the kingdom. I think it's such a missional opportunity, especially in today's culture, to be able to use stories to share the word of God, because story just has such an impact on our lives, and particularly kids' lives. And so, that's what I've been excited about doing my whole career, and hopefully I can be remembered for doing that.
Man, well, Mike, thanks so much for joining us today, man. I greatly appreciate you taking the time to talk about the new Dead Sea Squirrels series. And if you're wondering about this series, it is as cool as it sounds, and it is streaming exclusively on Minno. The whole first season is available now, so go and check that out. It's a great new series, and you'll be glad that you did. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us, man. I really appreciate your time.
Jay, it's a pleasure. I can't wait for next time.